for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Got a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Mayor,
Yes.
we need to remove the public hearing that's listed next for all the things related to the East Street Culvert project.
So item A and B.
Yep. That will come back at a later time.
Anybody else have any corrections?
One item, the grant is for 113 South Madison, not 112. It's an address typo.
Move to approve. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public comments. Do we have anybody in the audience that'd like to speak? Karen?
Not anything, I guess terrifically important, but as I drive back and forth to work every day and out on 63, I see banners that are ripped. They're getting more and more ripped. The Bloomfield worth your time. And I just simply forgot to mention this at Main Street meeting the other night, that probably it's time to take those down, especially the ones that look shabby. It's just not a very good image for the city.
Especially before next Saturday.
Yes, you're right. And that's not something individuals can do. It needs to be done with a, I'm trying to lift.
Any other public comments? Consent agenda. Everybody had a chance to, we went back to putting some more items on the consent agenda to kind of help things out, so. If you got any questions on there you want to talk about, we can take them out of the consent agenda and we can discuss them individually, or we can approve it all as is, however.
How much were the repairs on the Dodge bucket truck going to be?
We're 3,500 right now on that. Again, it's at the shop, it's due Hanson, so you know how many shops we do right now. I mean, we're only in it for 119 for diagnosing, but we
Okay.
want 33 to repair it. So subject to any other thing.
Hopefully it's not like that, Bill.
Yeah.
It's still under my authority. Okay, all right.
I think it's 5,500.
Move to approve consent agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Old business. Update to council for Matt Wildman or HR Green regarding required wastewater treatment collection system upgrades.
Right, I'd like to introduce Matt Wildman with HR Green, so he can give us an update on that, Matt.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the city for giving us the opportunity to work on this project for you. So we're off and running right now. We're studying a bunch of data right now on the existing plant, flows and loads. We're going to submit those to the DNR. We've submitted some of that stuff already, I think, for approval from the DNR. We'll have a project initiation meeting, I think, next week with the DNR to get them on board and present them kind of with the roadmap forward of how we're planning to progress with the project. The first thing that we're going to be doing is completing an alternatives evaluation. We're going to be looking at different treatment technologies out of the wastewater treatment plant, different ways to upgrade. The primary goal that we started out with originally in this whole proposal process, original goal is to keep the lagoons as a viable part of the treatment process. That's bought and paid for infrastructure, so they seem to be functioning, just not meeting the new limits that the DNR has come out with. So the primary goal is to use that and use a supplemental treatment system to help remove contaminants down to the levels that they will meet the new BDS permit limits. So the city right now is currently kind of behind the schedule that was presented in those permits. So we're going to work to kind of get back on track with the schedule. The end date in the DNR permit is the most important date to meet. But as this project progresses, we're gonna be working on the treatment plant. I've got a parallel team working on the sanitary sewer evaluation, so we're gonna be kind of laying out a roadmap for the sanitary sewer as far as kind of an action plan of different steps to progress, to try to reduce some of the flows that are coming out to the plant. We're gonna utilize the plant, I believe, for some equalization, kind of shrink the lagoon volume down and add on supplemental processes. This is all subject to change as these evaluations develop and we start to see cost numbers developing out of all that. One of the plans that we have initially up front is to go through what they call an integrated planning process, which allows us to look at the total cost of these projects in combination with other public works capital improvement projects that might be going on within the city, look at the available financing, look at what we could obtain for grants, and schedule this out over a period of time and theoretically get an extension on that compliance date. So we can do some of the work now. I've had some discussions with the DNR and they are fully in favor of if we can get the treatment plant kind of done, the environmental benefit of that through the improved water quality would be a great starting point, even if we still continue to have some sewer capacity issues, and then kind of tackle those once that treatment plant is done. So we're hoping to push those sewer repairs kind of down the road a little bit and then plan those out based on what available financing through the city is, and hopefully supplement that with some grant money if we can find some out there somewhere. There's not a lot of it, so I'm not making any promises on grants, but we're gonna be looking for different financing options for that sort of stuff, so. At this point, you guys want me to cover anything else, or does that kind of, the main point is I wanted to come thank you and introduce myself and I'll be the face that you see on this project moving forward over the next several years. So if you have any questions or anything else, feel free anytime to ask me, ask Danny or Chris or Keely or Gary or anybody else.
I would just say that we know that you haven't had a lot, there's been a lot going on in the last 6 months that you guys haven't heard about. So don't be afraid to ask Matt questions or ask us questions. He can handle it. We can point it in too. So just, feel free to throw out things that you might be wondering about. I know that some of you had some questions. It may feel premature, but go ahead and throw them out so he knows what your interests are.
Well, I would like to know if you have, and I know it's early, so it's probably too early for you to answer this, but something that I would like to know as soon as possible. If we need to start looking at some kind of a rate increase now versus waiting till everything hits. So the rate increase is smaller in increment.
One of the things that I don't think I've ever done is gone into a community and told them, whatever you do, don't raise your rates now. I have a lot of cities that I go into that one of the first things they say is, we pay $15 a month for water and sewer, and we haven't raised our rates in 30 years, and we're very proud of that. And I say, well, you're just foolish if that's the case. So we need to work on rate increases. In the facility plan will be the first real major document. There's another report that's called an anti-DEG. It is an EPA mandated process to make sure we're not degrading water quality unreasonably. Make sure any degradation that does occur is financially responsible, and because you guys could put in a plant that turns out a couple of molecules of hydrogen and oxygen together and that's it, and all the contaminants would be removed, but it costs hundreds of millions of dollars and you can't afford it, so it's not reasonable to do that. So we go through that process, and then the facility plan process is where we really get into the nuts and bolts. We talk to manufacturers, we get quotes, we evaluate pros and cons. We will develop a matrix in there that I will come to you and present that shows economic factors, total capital costs of the project, total annual O&M costs for the project, and then other factors, ease of operation, system reliability, those types of things. So we'll have a big matrix that we present with all of the different alternatives that we looked at, and it'll drive down to an alternative. We'll say, hey, we think this is the best fit for you. What do you think? What other things are really, really important to you that maybe we didn't think about as we did this? In that facility plan document, then, we also will look at what rates are and what rates need to be in order to pay for the project. And we'll have a projected rate increase that will be included in that, and that'll be early next year. So we're a few months away from that. I don't want to say I have any idea what they will be at this point, because I haven't even got to the point that I know what your rates are now. But it will be an increase, and I recommend implementing that as soon as possible. But I don't recommend doing it yet, because until we know the magnitude of what that's going to be, then we can start to feel like we'll know what the increments should be to get to that point in the next couple, 3 years probably. There's planning and design loan money out there available from the state, which is zero interest loan money. We're in the process of getting applied for that, so that any money that you're spending on us right now is zero interest. We'll roll into a construction loan, and then we'll lump all that together and say, this is where your rates need to be when this project is done, when you start paying it back. So, yep.
Very good.
Hopefully that answers it.
Thank you.
Maybe long-winded, but I don't want to go home tonight, so.
Now, when does the anti-degradation plan be filed?
The plan right now, in our contract, I think we have November for the date that we would be submitting that. The anti-deg has to go through a 30-day public comment period, and we also have to have a waste load allocation issued to us. The waste load allocation takes anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks typically to get that from the state, and we don't have the flow and load approved yet. So we've dug deep into that flow and load and had some conversations with staff about, well, we're seeing really high load in these couple of months. Where could that be coming from? We don't really have a good idea on that. So we're kind of progressing right now with these little higher numbers, just to make sure that we're conservative and we don't come in here and find out later that we need to design something a lot bigger. So we're starting out here to get those approved by the DNR. If we find something that we can eliminate and get those loads to the plant down, then we can go back in and shrink that down. But in the anti-dig process, if we get approved to discharge higher loads, then we don't have to go through anti-dig again to get a smaller load approved. We can just go to the state and say, we found it, and they'll say, anti-dig has already been done, you're fine. So that's the strategy there. Anti-dig, I expect will be done late November, early December. That goes out on a 30-day public notice, public comment period before we can finalize it and approve it. If we get comments, we have to respond to those, and then that report can be finalized. And once that's finalized, we submit the facility plan right on the heels of that. So both of those documents get developed simultaneously, but we have to submit the anti-dig before we can submit the facility plan. So we submit them together, essentially. So both of those, I expect, by the end of the year, probably, we should have a good idea of what we're looking at for costs on the system, and then rates on top of that.
So are you looking at, you said using the current lagoons, making them a little smaller, are you looking at a LEM system or what's the other term, land? LEGAR or whatever it is.
Yep, there's 3 technologies right now that are probably the most viable, not that we're gonna limit it to what we evaluate. The LEMNA system is a cover that would go on the lagoons. The Sager system is a rock box, basically, after the lagoons that filters and grows biomass to polish the wastewater prior to discharge. The algae-based system would go in ahead of the lagoons, would take out the nitrogen ahead and the ammonia ahead of the lagoons, and then would go into the lagoons for the rest of the treatment that is needed. The lagoons right now, based on flows and loads, are sized about almost twice as big as what's necessary. And that doesn't benefit you in a lot of ways from treatment, because they get colder and they grow more algae because there's more retention time in them. And you spend more trying to aerate them and keep them aerated because of the sheer volume that is out there. So we've looked at that, and what we plan to do is take one of the lagoons or a fraction of one of those lagoons and turn it into equalization. So these high flow events that you get in, you can store that water for a little while and then slowly feed it into the lagoons, which will be much smaller, have a better retention time, maintain more heat in the wintertime, which allows for better treatment. And then you're going to have some other form of treatment to polish and clean that up, whether it's right ahead of lagoons or right after lagoons. So those are the 3 front-running technologies that I see out there right now that we will be evaluating in a great level of detail. to make sure we get the almost a nuts and bolts evaluation of those technologies going into the facility plan, so we can make an informed presentation and an informed recommendation to you guys for ultimate selection.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you. Thanks.
And again, thank you very much. And I've been in central Nebraska today and I'm on my way home, so I'm going to bow out for the evening and get back home, so.
Sure, you don't want to miss anything.
Is there anything else I need to stay
No.
for? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great night, guys.
Thanks.
Yep. See you guys later.
New business, approved submission of grant application to assist with restoration of 113 South Madison.
So I apologize, I thought I got out a letter last night to you guys recommending that we wait to apply for this grant. I didn't get out till later today. We asked Renaissance Restoration, who's done some work in the square and is especially this historic restoration, to evaluate 112 and 113 for the common wall repairs, and then for looking at the facade of 113 to put together a plan and cost estimate. The repair of that common wall, they're estimating at $280,000. The facade work that we were talking about, which is not strictly aesthetic, but has a lot of aesthetic components to it, to make it look more in line with some of the other finished buildings. That work is $75,776. So when you add together, you're looking in the neighborhood of $350,000 to repair the common wall between the two buildings and fix the facade of 113. That doesn't give you a finished building in 113, a new finished building. And we thought it's premature for us to if we apply for the grant and we're awarded the grant, we're in effect committed to that grant, because if we turn back another grant right now, it'd be very difficult for us to get future funding. So we thought it was best to talk through this with you, throw out some other numbers, and then have a discussion. If you say, hey, we still want you to submit a grant application, we'll do it. It's just not the recommendation that we're making at this point. So I don't know what kind of discussion you want to have, but I sent y'all about 3 pages of thinking through some different scenarios, from everything from doing making these fixes to finishing out the building, or even taking down the buildings, leaving the front. So you've got some historic fabric there, but building new buildings behind those facades, or a new building behind the facade. I only included 113. I didn't look at 112, because, we don't have ownership of that property. Obviously, if we were to fix that common wall, that other owner would be responsible for a portion of that fix.
But the other owner decides, when you give him that number, he says, here, you can just have this building too.
Well, then that's a decision the council will have to make on how you'd like to approach that. At this point, the owners of the building are responsible for that wall and the stability of those buildings, right? The other owner can't just hand us the building and say, now it's your problem. We'd have to accept that problem, right?
Does he already give up that opportunity?
We haven't had that discussion. I haven't made him aware of these numbers yet. I wanted to talk to you before I did that.
So he's responsible for half, or so to say.
I don't know the legal side of how you decide who's responsible for how much. And I'm not saying that,
You've also got the problem of actually making them pay. Would be,
You know, what's, like, if you own a fence between two properties, like,
Fence is-
neighbor owns half and they own half.
fence is different,
Well, obviously.
but with a shared wall, it would be correct that it's supposed to be that, but you also have to make them pay, so you have to somehow get the money, and I don't know how that, I don't know anything about the individual or anything like that, but
If he don't wanna fix his wall, can we fix our wall without him fixing his?
I don't know, I don't have the construction knowledge to answer that question. I can tell you the way it is right now, it's a common wall. I don't know that you would have to build a common wall back. I suppose you could build I suppose it's possible to build a wall that would just support your structure, our structure.
I think really where we're at right now is that we're just describing to you a problem that probably is going to require some negotiation.
Well, I'm not, but these are some questions that we can ask
Sure.
to get some more information on that, I guess. Because that's what we're at right now, we're at the information stage.
Yeah, there's a lot of information here that we have to discover before we really get into it.
So one of the things that I put in that packet out to you is some examples of new construction costs, demolition costs. I've gotten those numbers just by going online and looking at reports and industry reports, right? So for example, new construction of a building estimated at, I think it was $135 a square foot for a steel and masonry building that would replace the existing building.
What's that work out to for the square footage?
So 155 a square foot to go back new, and it was 130 to repair, wasn't it? 135
Yeah.
to repair. It was about $20 a square foot different to repair than it was to replace.
And understand, these are my guesses, right? I'm just, right, so I think when you add it all up, it's $60,000 to $80,000 more to build new on the existing footprint. You could change that footprint if you know, there's other options when you start looking at building new. And I know I've spoken to some of you, and there's a desire to get feedback from the community on on what the community thinks is important. Is it important to rebuild historic? Is new okay? I'm assuming a vacancy isn't okay, but maybe everybody's okay with that. I'm just saying, you know, it's pretty preliminary to apply for a grant without a solid plan. The more solid the plan is, the more committed we are to it and the more likely we are to get funded. So we've got to do some more work.
We need to come up with a survey and just put it in everybody's bill.
And Chris, you said the grant deadline coming fast.
So yeah, this particular grant is an annual application tomorrow. There are other grants that are similar, they're just a little more competitive. And there are other sources of funding. When you start, for example, if we were to put back, if we were to put in new workforce level housing, there's some tax credits that cover about 10% of the cost of an apartment. There's opportunities for TIF funding. If we found a private partner, could be one possibility is applying for a red leg loan. We could apply for a loan from the USDA and pass that through to another entity. It could be a for-profit or nonprofit, and it's up to $600,000 and it's 0%. So there are some other options here to put together a funding package with the right partnership. You know, so there are lots of possibilities here. I don't want to
A lot
make
of things to explore right now.
Right.
We're at the very beginning stages, and you know, your talk about put new up, it's like that works. I mean, there's tons of different things that could work there. So we
Well,
want
I
to
just think we need to consider it
Yeah.
carefully, because the whole
Yeah.
square is in this condition.
Yeah.
So we're kind of setting forth the template for the future.
Well, we also need to give him some little bit of direction so he's not wasting a bunch of time on something that we're not gonna end up doing too. I mean, there's plenty of stuff to do. I mean, it just.
And we're early enough. I don't expect you guys to have a final plan, but a healthy discussion so that we know what kind of more information would be helpful to you. That's really where I'm at. I think, you know, we've looked at other communities and other ways that they're tackling these issues. And some of the most successful solutions seem to be, you know, looking for a private entity that would want to construct or reconstruct. The city providing some incentive to do that and working with them to put together a financial package. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I think that's probably the most common approach that other communities are using.
That sounds like the best idea at this point, or I mean, I guess what we talked about tonight, the best idea as far as finding some private entity that would be interested in doing the red leg type thing, having an incentive, but.
It might behoove us in the next month or so to put together perspectives to try and entice people to come in and consider. And obviously, we're not at that point right now. But, the footprint in and of itself can be adjusted. It could be expanded depending on circumstances here. I think that what you see going on in Madison Street in general is probably somewhat unique compared to the other two blocks because of the nature, as we've talked about before, of Madison Street, particularly at that end. So I think that there are other things that we could think about in the context of developing just these two properties, or maybe there's another one out there too. You don't know. But I think that it's going to require some inquiries of developers and inquiries of property owners. So we don't want to do this grant right now. It might be a year from now, maybe a year from now, or it could be something completely different. But it's premature. Chris and I have had this discussion, I think, 3 different times over the last 2 weeks. And yeah, it's a time to cut bait.
Anybody else got any more questions on the 113?
Thanks for the effort putting it all together.
Thanks, Chris. Discuss schedule for work sessions. I put that on there. I just thought that work session we had, what's it been, about a month ago now, I suppose, was a very helpful tool for us. And just wanted input from the council as far as, is it something we want to do on a regular basis? Or just as a needed basis, or I was thinking maybe maybe doing one a month or something, just. I know some of you don't want any more meetings, but. I mean, with everything that's going on.
I don't want to
we gotta-
skip things that need addressed. I'd be there. Yes, needed.
I mean, I talked to Gary about it, and it's kind of one of, we kind of put together an item, we have an agenda, but we put together a list of items that we would discuss at that time.
If you ask me, I think that there's probably, I can think of 2 meetings that you're going to need to have to get more understanding about some big issues between now and I'd say the end of January. I can think of 2. One's related to budget and financing. The other is probably put a second phase into the CIP business. We got one more of that before I think we get it to the point where we can bring it out to the public for public discussion. None of you have been in my office today, but if you saw my board today, you would all of a sudden see significant work being done on a bonding plan that will go out 10 years. And it actually is not one bond issue, but it would be 2, but we would space them so that you would have a continuous commitment to funding street improvements, and it wouldn't exhaust all of our bonding capacity. I know some of you think that maybe 2.5 million is the right number. I'm thinking probably 2 million is the right number, but you do 2 million repetitively locations so that you actually wind up maybe over a 10-year period of time spending 6 million opposed to something less than that. Over the same 10-year period, you go 2.5 million. So it's about trying to balance out your funding capacity. At any rate, I'm just beginning to develop that, but that's something that I think we need to talk about in the second phase of the CIP business here in probably 2 to 4 weeks. I think that's worthy of one. And then I think we also need to have a workshop on budgeting in general. Whether it's December, January, I don't know, but you'll see under my goals here, later on tonight that I'm looking to have the budget plan or the budget process identified, which would include having the budget priorities determined in December, January, having the revenue projections completed in January, so that we'll have more of a way to get to the point where we need to make final decisions about the budget in February. I think that that's worthy of a workshop meeting. Now, I don't know if you all have other things, but that's what I see from my perspective.
Anybody got any input or? I just, like the other night, we had that one, and we kind of narrowed some things down, I didn't know if we needed another one to kind of revisit them items again, and
But I want to get the CIP done, because that's going to be incorporated into the budget, so that's why I think that we're going to need 1 to 2 to 4 weeks as far as CIP is concerned.
well, we'll just plan, we can just come up with 1 to 2 to 4 weeks, and at that point, I just wanted to get, I guess, some feedback. Cause I thought the one we had the other night was a good meeting.
So you've got a council meeting the 4th of October or the 18th. So if you threw in an extra meeting, on a Thursday night, you're looking at the 11th or the 25th. If you do it on a Thursday night, 25th would be a month out.
Well, let me throw another option in here. We're going to be asking for a short special meeting next week. So we got a grant deadline that we have to meet for approval. And I know that I got to put one item on for Jeff. You want to see if we could load up that meeting, make it a half hour, 45 minutes, and maybe open up October the 4th as your workshop night? I don't know, Mrs. Bowden be happy about it, it's my wedding anniversary.
Next Thursday,
4th.
on the 4th. You better take care of Mrs. Bowden.
I'll take care of that on the weekend if everybody's happy about it. I'm just throwing that out as an idea.
Yeah, let's try it.
You wanna try and do the CIP business then on the 4th? If we got any little stuff
If
that.
anybody's got anything they wanna discuss at that, we'll just put it on the.
We'll put bills on here, but other than that, I've tried not to do anything on the 4th other than CIP.
But items to discuss during the workshop, just let us know, we can, so that somebody's prepared to have the information if you need it. Does that work for everybody?
Works for me.
We're gonna need 15 minutes from you or 20 minutes from you next week, so.
Okay.
All right.
All right, consider and discuss Christmas lights on the square. I also put that on there. I went to a supervisor meeting. It's just mainly for, we always have a couple guys that go help and put the Christmas lights clear up on top and help them get strung down. And they just was wanting to make sure that we were still gonna be available or that we would help them do that. So I guess just more for information than anything else, so.
Okay.
Does anybody have a problem with that?
No. When do they do that? Remember, Norman, Dave?
They've got, I don't know, you just have to get with the supervisors. They got a guy that comes and does the gutters and all that part of it, they just want some, I think Dave,
We do.
somebody usually goes clear up on top and hangs them, so.
We get the bucket truck.
Oh, I think you crawl up there and do it.
Well, that too. That too.
Well, I do.
Yeah,
Manually.
that.
I've not been there and I'm not volunteering.
So has anybody got any questions about that? All right, closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 388-.9, competitive information. The governing body of a city utility may hold a closed session to discuss marketing and pricing strategies or proprietary information if its competitive position would be harmed by public disclosure not required of potential or actual competitors, and if no public purpose would be served by such disclosure. And Iowa Code 21.51A, closed session to review or discuss records which are required or authorized by state or federal law to be kept confident or to be kept confidential as a condition for that government's body possession or continued receipt of federal funds, also pursuant to Iowa Code 21.51J, to discuss the purchase of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the government body would have to pay for that property.
Wow.
So at this time, we're gonna go into closed session. Are we gonna leave?
Yeah, we need to have a motion now.
So we need a motion to go into closed session for
Move
them.
we go into closed session.
Two items. Second.
These should both be pretty quick.
Yeah.
So we'll be back out.
John,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Earl.
Yes.
You high school kids, well, this won't take long, and we've got quite a bit of meeting left, and then we have another closed session at that point, you guys can be free to go. The fun part.
Well, how many did you get done today? 5, good man.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, I thought that's pretty good.
Danny, you wanna use this time now?
Oh.
I have some questions.
Keep it alive so you can decorate. Don't let it die.
Think of your Carly Browntree.
Put a dog house and put out there.
Oh my god.
Good job for what you're doing with the parade.
No, thank you. It's not like almost 30 people. 34.
Yep. It's good
No, we
stuff.
just need them to fill out the form and commit.
Yeah, we're hoping to get that on the internet tomorrow.
Yeah.
On Main Street.
What's that?
On Main Street.
We'll put on Facebook and they can come get a printed copy of Tammy's and, yeah.
Good job. Good job.
Oh, we're gonna have quite the day.
Yeah, that's
Festival of the Trees.
Really?
for some, well, we gotta ask them to make sure. But we'll put it on cost.
So the,
Oh, yeah.
Fundraiser, there's, we did a small one last year.
Yeah, you know, I went to something like that before, but I don't remember.
Purchased, decorated already.
Good idea.
Yeah, we'll have, Santa in this house.
yeah, I think it's going to be.
LEM.
Well, Yep.
Just over there.
And Tammy's awesome.
And then,
She's out there.
that's the
She's
worst
out
part.
there.
Lagoons are-
What we see in the tunnel,
Yeah.
Good choice.
by down by there.
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Covered lagoon.
Oh, I never knows.
What else you got to see?
Well,
Somebody had
so
something about mini,
Okay.
mini motors,
mini boat.
so the kids would bring the power wheels up and line them
where-
up.
I noticed up there at the.
Oh, I know, kids have now, for the parade.
Driving around
Yes.
in circles. I said, get some straw, but I'm making a little road.
I know, so we're gonna get, we got some orange cones, but I should, looking to get some hay bales.
Different
Yeah.
lengths and sizes of
That
rock
would be
beds,
easier.
then it goes down and uses that heat with bacteria.
Yeah, actually, I should put like that, because that'd be better than cones.
Keep them in.
Yeah, well, then there's gonna be a train, where guys bring.
With bacteria.
Right. Yeah, everything comes out bacteria, which is, yeah, so, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, you
Got a car
Okay.
right
The other
in
system, the
Oh,
other
really?
system,
so
the
big.
other system.
Then I was actually straight.
Yeah. Okay, then this is kind of biological.
Instead
Right,
of
that's the virus, that's where
doing
you go out and
it above the highway,
We thought about just because hopefully we have permission from grasses to put a phone we're like an old tractor or something there with a mom. I talked to James, Sears about getting a big pumpkin, putting it there to help towards the his show at the fairgrounds. So you got a friend that's got like a tractor. That if he can figure out how to get it here, he'll bring it, but. So we're trying to get like this cool ball display with a motor show sign and a pumpkin like. Yeah, and so like that'll be up all week. And so like, oh, I hope we get it figured out, but. I can't find the vehicle, so Lonnie's asking his dad. I think the tractor would be like an old tractor. Yeah. And so, I know. Well, yeah, him and Gus's thing, like, oh, looks cool, you know, so I thought it'd be really neat.
It's our.
It's what we did already.
Well, the next year.
It makes the most sense to
Adapt.
adapt.
That's why we moved the date this year, so we can have him come up.
I know those three have been in there
So,
before.
because this year we already paid the rent at the fairground. And already announced it to like all his codes and stuff, so when she said that's fine, we'll just move it. And so we're gonna put him on the south side. And then hopefully we'll just fill up. Yeah.
Less than building costs.
Well, maybe it's just gonna be enough to water, so hard.
Make it on the drive, they're gonna have two balls. One against the other.
Yeah.
Two new balls. Then they're gonna have that.
Oh, yeah.
It's not gonna cost them this much.
That's fine. You know, I've been getting.
Much different. Like you were
They're gonna
saying,
let that
right?
three, yeah, they're gonna have to work all three.
No.
But it was only two stories.
Oh, that's true.
That's too many things to have.
They went all like that.
Yeah,
From basement.
yes.
To
Well,
the-
Jason.
It's going. Oh, come on, that's, that shows it.
No, this,
Yeah.
no, this is.
No,
Yeah, you're gonna need.
okay, and they do it here then too. And, actually, we're doing it right. I'm thinking of the architect that plans it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you know.
I know. Yeah, that's why I was like, is this the same person, because that was.
This is
You're
For what? Oh, yeah.
Sitting there, I was going.
No, you know, how much time you put.
Is it not ready?
Tab's gotta get flat.
Always been the little guy.
But the old kid was what? Oh,
It's not at the same time.
so they're trying to build it themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, we took it
Yeah.
home last year.
Yeah.
We got a roll down.
Oh.
Mechanism.
No.
$700 to spend it. No.
Are you kidding?
And keep it.
Really, it's the same as
A lot less
Yeah,
than
almost
$700.
$30, yeah. Oh
And
my
he's
God.
already paid it for you.
Jeez Louise.
Come on.
Seriously, that is crazy.
Oh, $700, come on. How stupid are we?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was crazy.
wrap that up or down.
I cannot. I will like. Don't care. And I just lost my dream. And then it's like, shows where you're at. And I'm like,
He will.
last year.
At Michael Clark.
And she was like, I thought they were.
Okay.
And she never explained.
Look at the links in it. See, I was. I didn't do the only one that was done that actually did something.
No, they're not,
Riley
they're not
Bailey.
already like.
Riley Bailey did, and Hannah was gone when she did. Oh, yeah, he was through.
I know, that's what I'm saying, that sounds like Bushy Block, you know?
He does, Bailey said,
It's not
he's got, he had no project.
You know, they put their marinade on it, yeah. And so this guy's on water, he makes yourself a blue. You know, so stuff like that, so.
What's going on there? Look at it.
She moved.
I heard. He got an answer.
So, I was like, that's an hour.
Really?
So then she got one for Linda, to be a manager.
I'm like, I can't.
Yeah, and then she was talking about they,
How we didn't have to.
so they offered a job in Bloomfield, Arizona, the whole staff, because they all know each other, they're all related. And so she's like, oh, so she's like, I'm not training anybody. So she put a sign up, you know, closed and willing to lease or sell, you know, here's the email address. Well, the people that bought the dollhouse, you know, we bought it a couple years ago from Thorson. Just down the road, up on the hill, and then here's the house, and then the old pieces of that.
Oh, doll's.
Yeah, the old house, yeah, yeah.
Like a dollhouse.
Yeah, the dollhouse, yeah. Yeah, from the, yeah, the dollhouse. So they bought that a couple years ago.
Right, yeah.
And so, he is a chef. But Ray Blondie has been doing some renovations. And so, I told Ray, I said, tell Morgan about this. He maybe lives in this restaurant. And he does.
Even if she says that.
He does a lot of European food. I told him his demographic would be more like comfort food, meat, potatoes.
Yeah, she'll be like,
Like
oh.
very, he makes all his sauces homemade. Oh yes, he makes all his breads and all that. Like he is legit. And so I told him he just needs to tone it down from the French cuisine, you know? Right, yeah, no. Or oysters, or, you know, like he was like, oh gosh, I can do that. And I'm like, whoa, like,
So is it?
well, yeah. You know, he talked to me, and I think he's gonna use it, she's gonna have a really good deal, because she just wants someone in there. And so, so he's crunching numbers, I gave him Ashley's phone number, I gave him Jeff, I think he has a spot before. I'm pretty sure he still has it, I made him business cards and t-shirts, yeah, I know. And so, yeah, he's an interesting character. But yeah, so and then Greg Rogers for Farmer Bargain. So I'm like, so he's crunching numbers, hopefully he'll make it work. But the main thing he wants to do is have like a special because they want 2 meals. And he'll deliver. I know. So he'll make you know, you get it in by a certain amount of time. Yeah, like he's gonna be preparing it.
This guy needs to put up a donut shop, bakery.
Just too expensive. He just got promotion at work. He's got promotion at work, so there's no way we're getting him out. Yeah, everyone keeps saying, what's up with the bakery?
I don't know.
I think it would.
If I did, it'd probably be
bakery slash cookie.
Well, yeah, I'm sure that.
Yeah, definitely. You'd have to have some other retail in that, you're telling her now.
But there was one certain person that was not okay. I brought detectives. I don't know, I brought his person a few years ago. And he was like, is it ever worth it?
That's the number one thing that people want. When we did the census, we did, and everyone said, bakery coffee shop. She's like, decorate cakes, like, we're so busy just for cupcakes and decorating.
Then you have so many people on the side. Yeah.
Oh, I know, but if you were a legit store, if I could go in there, I want this cake right half for the heaven, please. I need to get on my way. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
That's probably why I have a chance, yeah.
yes, yeah.
There's nothing in the.
Well, maybe, I guess. And there's one thing. But you're great. That's just no, she is Hyper's auto. She's like, it was my phone. To when I went to Mercantile last year. Just say, you know, like, I'm available, or I kind of heard somebody might be interested. We're just getting our planning ready for the holiday shop. We didn't know if this was an option. They're like, well, it's not already started yet, so. Yeah, so I don't know. That's the thing, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, the owner took over. You have to wait because his insurance to have a restaurant in the center, all the departments doubled. So he had to charge Lace and Lace because Lace was like, I'm already paying $1,200 a month in utilities, which it was.
Yeah.
And then, and his rent was like $500. We raised it to like $900. And like, they didn't get off that, they hit it off wrong. Lisa was out that weekend.
She knew the difference between like a hacker and Steve and like
So.
A whole hour of one conversation. Yeah, and then I was like, she's like, 2 minutes, 2 minutes on. What am I doing?
And the old years. I'm sorry. I'll tell you what, I like to make it look nice. You gotta make it look nice and move and ready, because no one's gonna deal with that, because it's not their property. So.
I found everything I do is actually
Put in the time, it's just, you know, work the ceiling, and get some good panels, and make sure the floor is nice. That's all you do. And then people can move in and. Yeah.
and then it's like, that's like, I don't say anything.
I can't, but that's why I pay somebody to do it. He comes once every week. Yeah. I know.
Yeah, we're.
Well, so, Ryan and Day like a retail together, but she was to get the contract for. Like, so she'll have like work clothes contracts, so she'll be able to, so they need to go get a work shirt and go there and purchase it. So, I don't know, but it would be like the standard pants or shoes that you get. And then she would have a tag, like, for show tag, and especially show them here. And stores that put in here, so she'd have some of that. She'd have like Western wear, women's Western wear. Well, Cecil Reed. Is that what you're talking about? Cecil Reed has her next gen ag solution. She has her boutique, and it's really loud. And she wants to get up to the square. And so it's kind of different. I think the more the merrier, because if one person's going into retail, they're going into the other. They'll go to the multiple stores. It's not, so I don't think it's competition. I think it's friendly competition. It's only gonna attract. And so, yeah, so she'll have to do that. Carrying some protein stuff too. And some wages up there. Yeah.
And that's, if you look around the square, there's not any buying fruits.
No.
I love the fact that she's like, I should see one less the same.
I could sell them, but everyone needs that retail apparel.
What's the south
Really, it's just specialty, like, appointment stuff. It's not like,
It's not a retail.
it's not like you go in there, yeah.
You know what I did? I looked up.
I'll put it in, she has some retail, she has fabric. There's not much though. Perfect Touch carries some stuff. There's not, it's like, needs to be more, yeah. But, I don't know, there's a lot of like, something up there, so. Yeah, so, Tony's held meetings with, Ashley and Rihanna, gave them a whole bunch of information on getting grants that they're all for, and business opportunities, especially for Rihanna, she's a woman. And there's some good grants for women, for some good reduced interest rates, yeah. And so, we get what we want. Yeah, so, yeah, right? I don't know, I just think people want to get some stuff up there. The new office, their sign looks really good.
I like it, that's what I'm putting it at. Yeah.
I like it.
Really, period.
Yeah, it is, I like it.
You told me that I was okay.
Yeah, maybe remember we got to start selling clothes, and I guess she's like super busy with it. Yeah, so that was cool. Hope it will
What's going on?
Yeah.
Is that the school or anything?
Okay, which one?
From you.
Oh, yeah, so they're renting Bloomfield brings out the whole one, and that's this building, you know, but she has a school on that side. No, well, he was trying to sell it.
Yeah.
Not the room, but individually.
But I thought.
Yeah, she did. She had Kelly Jackson, which
She
is.
kept the book.
No, I just think so. Yeah, she's been on conference. I made a comment about, some other
So hard on your thing.
building. It's just the switch. Oh, my, I have a living by another building. I'm pretty sure they bought the building. And then a lot of them is renting that side for the school. So the school is on that side. They don't let candy and massage and hotels on that side. So it's kind of exciting. I don't know either. She always gets a good amount because it's cheaper than living house. And they help them.
Not even like and then I was thinking that sounds like okay, see that's what I should do.
Yeah, some of them stay on. Which is kind of cool. Are you gonna come up to them?
I'm gonna play.
Pray for the weather. Just because it was my idea to move today. And Carol said, I want to. Carol, take away. I don't want to move today. And we go, well, I kind of do. She's like, I don't want to. And I was like, I kind of do. And I was like, well, I don't know. We can get on the same weekend. Because a lot of teachers, like, we just can't.
A lot of teachers do it about.
And everyone. Kids can only move that weekend to get the same girls in the tri-state area, so. Yeah, it's funny, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
move it.
He's changed
He's
his
coming up after and he did, so, yeah. So now I'm like, please don't thunderstorm or rain, because then it'll be my fault. It is, and mostly cloudy, with like a 10 to 15% chance of rain right now.
Like, I go to RAS for questions about building.
But that was 15 days.
Yeah.
When I was.
Yeah, I could change a lot better. We have snow, but.
Because I have them right after her class, so if I have a question.
Pumpkins are frozen, you can't paint them.
I love RAS.
It's taking a while.
It
is.
I don't wanna take them too far.
Did yours go up a little bit?
Huh?
Did yours go up?
Some, but my boy back here in Arizona, he's been trying to, looking around trying to find something. He just stumbled onto a record. He said in Centerville, the house, $75,000 was the rack. Is third cheaper than one here, the same California house.
Because of taxes.
Yeah, I mean, the taxes are a third cheaper, and he said the same way down east, same way in the Cumberland.
I know.
Because the tax base is not very good.
Well, it's because of poor management on our
Well, I think,
they throw stuff out for us to pay for.
I think there's truth to that, but I think the tax base, we don't have the same numbers.
The reason why is
We don't have the
because
retail.
so much money.
We don't have the boundary.
You're missing the point.
I know.
The reason why they're high
Part of it
is because there's so much, look at our own club.
Yeah.
Van Buren County's got 5, we've got 20. And we've got the same population.
And we're safe.
And we're safe.
Might be a little
Safe.
We're not
excessive.
doing meth.
I had a dog that
Motion to go back into open session. Second.
John,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Darren.
Yes.
Discuss potential rate changes for natural gas and electric utilities. Chris?
So when we were doing the budget session, we talked about the fact that the gas utility is not bringing in the amount of revenue to cover the cost, and so the gas fund is being lowered annually. And so one of the suggestions we had at that time was to shift about $80,000 in revenue from the electric fund to the gas fund. And we proposed doing that through some fixed rate changes and a reduction in the residential electric fee. Since that time, we've been notified that we've received we'll be, beginning October 1st, we'll have a rate increase from Southern Iowa Electric. According to Southern Iowa Electric, that rate increase will amount to about $80,000 annually, just coincidentally. But, we haven't raised our rates, our electric rates, since we renegotiated the contract with Southern Iowa Electric in 2015. During that time, if you include the October 1st rate increase, the total annual rate increases is somewhere in the neighborhood between $200,000 and $250,000 annually. So I guess it's the staff's recommendation that we do make a shift to the gas meter charge, and not the entire shift that we were talking about before, but maybe go from a $5 meter fee to a $10 meter fee, and then look at some changes on the electric side that would offset that rate increase from Southern Iowa Electric of about $80,000, and that would be a mix of residential, commercial, and industrial rates, and we'll bring back a plan to you at the next council meeting.
Anybody got any more discussion on that?
A motion to direct us to do that would be appropriate.
We need a motion to give direction to bring us back a proposed plan for approval at the next city council meeting. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So just to be clear about the process, we'll bring that back and then we'll draft a revised ordinance. And so there will be is it gonna be that plan and then a public hearing and then ordinance changes, right? So it's not a snap your fingers and done. Thank you.
Approve acquisition.
Acquisition.
Acquisition
Can we use a different word?
of property located at 206 West Walnut Street. Need a motion to approve a check for earnest money for the purchase of that property as discussed in closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Darren,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Earl,
Yes.
Approve the claims as presented. Anybody got any questions about the claims?
It's a very small one. This is return trolley latch and end cap for the sewer plant, 4495. And then got a 745.
Can't hear you, John.
There's a,
Just say it.
on the back of the first page, Yoder Lumber return trolley latch end cap for the sewer plant. Evidently, they took some parts back that was left over. It says minus $44.95, but then when you get over to the farther over to the right, it's got minus 745. So what's
They
that?
probably took back
You see
more.
the 70, you see the 37 above it?
No? I didn't-
Right above it.
Oh, okay, yep, okay,
That's the net.
I got you.
So net.
Okay, I mean,
They
it's
picked up one and took it out of
$7.45, but I didn't want
Okay.
to.
That's the net.
Okay,
We gotta get back something we paid for the month.
yeah.
We got a credit.
Move to approve.
Plans.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public comments. Anybody got any public comments?
Yes.
Ernie?
Is anybody interested in the personal taxes in this town but me?
Yeah,
They're getting hot.
it's been discussed.
I give a rental property to one of my kids last year and I paid, which I thought was plenty, $600 a year on it. It was a medium house. This year, their taxes are $900.
City taxes went down, so.
The city taxes,
Well, anyway, so much for that. My oldest boy had been back here from Arizona for a couple, 3 weeks, looking around for something to invest in. Didn't have much luck here.
got a building on the square.
Yeah, got that. By the way, I want to commend you. He had to put a new patio up, second floor up. I said, don't be surprised if some of those eager beavers don't come down and tell you need a permit and all that stuff to put up a,
Did they get him?
Huh?
Did they?
No, they didn't.
Not yet.
They will now.
I'm ready for you.
We can't get them all.
Anyway, by starting to go look around, he went to Centerville and discovered a house in Centerville. Oh, I'm gonna say from 50 to 75,000. And a house in Bloomfield from 50 to 75,000. The taxes are a third less.
Well, I don't know what changed. You'll have to talk to the tax lady because the city
Well,
taxes.
think about us when you're making these
The
decisions.
city taxes went down 70-some cents this year.
Who?
The city taxes went down 70-some cents.
Per thousand.
74 cents.
74 cents.
I haven't
The
noticed.
county,
It's less
All I
farm.
know is my taxes is awful high.
You're at the wrong meeting, Ernie.
What?
You're at the wrong meeting.
they'll have the elevator fixed in
2 weeks.
about 3 weeks.
And I can go upstairs again.
So for your,
That place is just about as bad as this one is to get to.
but for information
If
on
you
the
people had
taxes,
any consideration for an old man, you'd go back over where he was, where I could drive right up to the door. Wouldn't have to go up any steps or nothing.
There's an elevator here too, Ernie.
Huh?
There's an elevator here too.
Well, I use it, but getting in here. It's a problem to get in here.
There's no steps.
oh, the outside,
Yeah,
It's a long walk.
and there's no parking out there handy. Unless you get here awful early. Tonight I had to park in the walkway out there, or else walk a long ways.
yeah, we need to get a handicap spot posted though. They
You
don't have,
bet.
they're waiting to get the grass
Get one
growing
that
to get
just
the
fits
signs
my
put back
car.
up. One that just fits your car, you just put your name on it?
You put my name on it.
Has anybody else got public comments?
You didn't ask me if I was through. I was.
Are you through? I was helping you make that decision.
You're facilitating.
I know when I'm not among friends.
Oh, you're our
It
friend.
don't bother me any.
Gary,
I'm good, Mayor. We got things to talk about in closed session.
Danny?
Yeah, just a quick update. Kiowa's been in town. They were started on our utility pole replacement. They had 3 done so far. They had more done. They pulled away off last week to go out east and then ended up coming back. So they're back replacing poles, started there. Gas, we've had 2 unexpected gas leaks, both Friday nights, last 2 weeks in a row. So been late doing those. I think a lot of that's due to a lot of the rain and the ground shifting a little bit. We've had some cracks in the line, so we've been working on that. Water, we cycled the tower off the square, replaced all that water there for, to get down to our proper levels. And then, sewer, of course, we had a meeting with HR Green today and moving along with that. So, and then the streets, we're working on some concrete this next week, pouring, east street down there and then working around here. So, other than that,
I forgot to ask what the power outage was about a couple weeks ago.
that was, T2 just went offline, transformer went off. As soon as, we got in, they turned right back on, everything's good, so. Don't know if it's a spike from, SIC or not, so.
Chris?
Just a couple things. One is, I know haven't talked about nuisance homes for a while. Just want to let you know that on several homes, there's some changes happening. So we're still working on the process. We'll bring back the process, but I think it's good news that some of those homes are going through some changes without us taking drastic action, right? We're getting requests to put in gravel driveways. And I believe, my understanding is, we can move forward with those gravel driveways as long as the approach through the right of way is paved. So I'm going to begin approving those tomorrow unless I hear differently from you. And then thirdly, The director of the Electric Power Research Center, a graduate student and a professor will be from the Electrical Engineering College, will be down from Iowa State on Monday looking at our grid infrastructure, substations, and just discussing some options on how they might be able to assist us with some evaluation and planning.
So, I got an email from a concerned citizen I'll forward to you. I just got just a little bit before I got here on the noise ordinance.
Okay.
Evidently, they thought it was supposed to be on the agenda for tonight talking about it. So I'll just forward that to you and you can read it. Fire chief.
I got 4 things. One, I didn't get on the agenda in time. We'll talk about it next week. I've got 2 firemen that been voted on by the membership and we'd like to bring before the city council for approval. So we'll discuss that next week. Talked with Gary. I'd like to start beginning discussion on the storm siren project. We've got the $5,000 foundation grant towards that purchase. Met with Scott at Frontline. Gary's got the quotes. Chris has got the maps, so start that discussion so that we can start working with REC about putting some poles in the ground and try to get this up before the weather gets bad. Friends of the Bloomfield Fire Department are going to begin their annual fundraising effort. We're going to do our 2nd annual Black Friday Sportsman's Extravaganza. We're going to be raffling off 5 rifles again. The guys met and they're starting to get stuff together. They're going to get with Abby at Blackboard Printing, get posters and tickets going. So that'll be the day after Thanksgiving that evening. Last but not least, I received a phone call Wednesday night from Representative Dave Loebsack's office. As most of you are aware, we applied for a firefighter assistance grant. And he called and wanted some information on it. We've been going back and forth, or I have been, with Washington, D.C. It hasn't been released yet, but it will be. There will be a release that will be awarded project grant of $269,400. $143,000 of it will go towards radios, converting our analog system to digital. That'll be walkie-talkies, pagers, all the trucks, mobiles and everything. And I think there's money to go into the comm center to help with that project too. Second portion of that is $126,400 for SCBA's. This is our last year for ours, so I won't have to put that in my budget. Those are the project amounts. The city and trustees are out of $269,400. We only have to come up with $29,905.
Nice work. Good job, chief.
So as soon as that's released, we'll start spending a little money.
We like spending other people. Is that it?
That's it.
Director's not here. Main Street, anybody from Main Street got any updates?
I'm here for
Okay.
Tanner. Well, I saw on the consent agenda, you guys to block the streets for the fall motor show. That's next weekend. Will those be blocked off Friday night?
What do you want?
Friday night? Kinda hard.
Talk to Danny.
It's really
Danny will
hard.
get it taken care of.
Okay. People coming in the morning at like 7. We gotta get them moved. Yeah. So, yeah, fall motor shows on Saturday. We're gonna have more stuff for kids this year. Mini motors. You can bring your Power Wheels. And you guys got Power Wheels.
Yeah.
Bring Cinch in his car.
3 or 4, one tractor.
So then, we'll have pumpkin painting and train rides. The First Iowa State Bank was so kind to sponsor it.
We published, I'm sure, but
Yeah, most of the stuff starts at 9 and 10, so,
good kids.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then, we hope that the weather's great, cause that could bring in lots of entries and fill Franklin and Madison with old cars and tractors, so.
Good.
The lighted Christmas parade for December 8th, planning is coming along swimmingly. We have about 30 floats that are gonna commit, so I think we submitted a route.
It's been approved.
Okay, yes. So we're extremely excited about that. It's gonna be pretty big. And we'll have some other activities and stuff on the courtyard. We got permission from supervisors already on that. Coming up pretty soon is the Healthiest State Walk. Everyone can meet on October 3rd at 4 o'clock at Fetcho's. Take a nice brisk walk around the square. And it's like a statewide initiative thing, so gonna be about 30 minutes of cardio if anybody wants to join in. But yeah, that's about it.
Trick or treat,
Karen was,
October 30th.
October 30th, the school schedule is absolutely clear that night, and we can avoid church night and do it on Tuesday.
Anything else on Main Street? Council updates?
I had a big presentation, but I just told those.
it was the Power Wheels, wasn't it?
Anybody else have any other council update, meeting type things?
In the thing that came this week from League of Cities, there was a meeting October the 1st that I signed up for on housing that's in Ottumwa, so I already registered for that. So just to let you know, it's from 2 to 4 on the 1st of October. It was at the bottom of the list.
I don't know if I got the email at all.
Okay.
It's the weekly one.
Yeah, it's the weekly League of Cities thing that comes.
Oh, yeah, I don't think I get that.
Well, you should.
I know.
I'll send it to you.
Anything else on council updates? I don't have anything other than, if you haven't met her, there's the Iowa State Fair Queen here.
She lives across the street from me.
And I want to commend Jeff on good work on that grant. Yeah.
Yes.
Good job, Jeff.
Good job.
As far as that goes, the motion to close the regular meeting.
Make a motion to close. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
No, you gotta go on you gotta go on a close.